Do you know that feeling when you really want to do something really well and you're too scared to start? This is me right now when filming this video review. Today we are reviewing a product which I consider really important. Those are the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II. Those are tower speakers designed for desktop usage, and as we will explore today, those are speakers perfect for basically everyone. They don't cover just the standard hi-fi customer, but they are also great for near field monitor usage. They are great for usage for gaming, for watching movies, for music obviously, but also for studio work. They are basically one of the best price performance ratio speakers that you can find right now. Starting with a little bit of background information, the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II is the Mark II of the Diamond line of speakers. Those are basically the flagship speakers made by Pylon Audio. Pylon is a rather popular company from Poland, and they have such a great craftsmanship for those speakers. So as you may know, I have reviewed quite a few speakers, including KLH Model 5, Buchardes 400, Amphion Argon 3S, and a lot of other speakers. But usually I do have a few qualms with the build quality when it comes to the speakers, because some companies just don't work the extra mile to make them convenient to use. With Pylon Audio, we have not just the speakers, but they also come with little feet that you can attach to the speaker. And the speaker also has a little bit of an angling, so it sits kind of like this. I hope it is visible. And this helps it distribute the sound waves in such a way that the sound from each driver arrives to your ear at the same time. So basically the treble driver is pushed slightly backwards, so treble sounds travel a bit faster. So every single driver should reach your ears at the same time because of this slight backwards angling. This also has another interesting effect because at the back the speaker also has this angling, so they sit kind of like this. This has the effect of the bass ports being pushed slightly into the speaker, so they are pushed farther away from the wall, which also has a very positive effect on psychoacoustics. The speaker also has a foot in the back, which doesn't allow you to glue them to the wall, which is a mistake often seen with stereo systems when you don't have quite enough space. With Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II, you won't be able to do that. You will place them at the perfect distance from the wall, because even if you take them further away from the wall, it won't affect the sound negatively, but you can't really push them closer to the wall than the design allows. Really smart engineering on them. Another thing is that they have magnetic grills to protect the drivers. Also super smart engineering because the wooden surface is also ennobled with wax. What this means is that they are very hard to scratch. The surface is very resistant to wear, and I actually had to place them on the floor. Of course, I do have very thick carpets in my home. I was quite scared that I would scratch them because even though I do have thick carpets, they may have tiny bits of dust which are really scratchy. What I noticed is that the surface is perfect, just like the first day they arrived. They are really easy to clean. You just need a wet towel to clean them. You can also use special furniture cleaning materials, but it is not necessary. They are just really easy to maintain, which I think is important for the practical usage of a speaker. I have tried using the Diamond 30 Mark II in both an acoustically treated room and also in a standard room, because I wanted to know if they respond well to acoustic treatment. While there is some response to acoustic treatment, it is not necessary. You can enjoy them in most rooms and still get an excellent sound without having to worry too much about the room acoustic treatment. Still, on the usage of the speakers, they have a very high dispersion, both vertical and lateral. This means that you don't have to be seated perfectly in front of them to hear the sound perfectly. In fact, the dispersion is very wide, so it's like I can do it like this, but you can't really see the angle. The angle is extremely wide, like whoop. So even if you sit way above them or way below, you can't really sit below them because they are tower speakers. But for example, if I'm sitting on the floor and watching a movie, if I'm sitting above, for example, having the speakers at my computer and sitting on my chair, my ear is way above the speakers. Everything works perfectly. They are having such a wide dispersion that even if I don't sit right in the center, right in the middle, I still hear a very good sound. It is important that they are equally aimed at you. So if you are sitting with one ear closer to one of the speakers, you will hear that. That is quite noticeable. But on the other hand, you don't have to be right in the middle of each speaker. So they don't have to be perfectly pointed at you. They can be angled quite widely without affecting the soundstage, imaging, and clarity. Well, those may sound like trivial things for the average hi-fi enthusiast. For someone who is just starting, those are quite relevant and quite important. And I'm adding this because the price of the Diamond 30 Mark II is just 3,000 US dollars for a pair. Each speaker is 1,500 US dollars. A big reason why pricing is so important for this pair of speakers is that they can be great starters for anyone, but even for someone who has a lot of experience with speakers, they will be an interesting trip, maybe even an end game without breaking the bank. And that is a question I get quite often. What can I purchase if I already have a great pair of speakers? Or if I already have a great amplifier? What are the speakers that I would recommend? And I think that for most users, the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II would be the answer. I basically have been using them both in hi-fi standard fashion, like sitting about 3 meters away from them and having them placed with about 3 to 5 meters between them, and having them amplified from a stereo amplifier driven by a DAC, situation in which they sound sublime. But I also have used them in near field fashion while sitting at the computer, so I have them placed right beside me with an equal distance between them of about 1 meter, each one being away from me. So each one is about 1 meter away from me, angled towards me, and I sit at the computer, which is much higher than the speakers. And they still sound sublime. The sound is absolutely superb. The point I'm trying to make is that they work well with most rooms. You won't feel limited by the room size and shape that you are having. You won't feel limited by acoustic treatment, and you won't ever feel limited using the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II. To drive them, you need a good source, I would say. For example, I've used the Ketches S300 Plus stereo amplifier, which is a power amplifier, so that amplifier doesn't have any kind of volume control. It needs a preamplifier to sound good and for you to be able to adjust the volume. So you need either a DAC with a pre or a separate pre between the DAC and the amplifier. But I also have tested them with Ichi Design's Power DAC SX. The Power DAC SX is a DAC amplified. There is nothing in between the DAC and the speakers. There are no amplifiers. It's just the sound of the DAC. And it is also able to drive the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II. So artsy Hi-Fi options and Burson Funk, for example. So they aren't really hard to drive. They are just hard to master. You need a good amplifier because they have 4 drivers in total each. And I'm talking about 2 mid-woofers, 1 mid-range dedicated driver, and 1 treble driver here. The treble driver is the one that has to have the widest both laterally and vertically dispersion, and I think that Pylon Audio has done a great job with this treble driver. It basically disperses the music everywhere. You can hear it from basically any point in the room. You hear resolution, detail, and the stereo image is simply great regardless where you're seated, which I think is quite amazing because I keep recommending some products and most people can't use them in the designed fashion. For example, those are tower speakers. You typically have to place them in an equilateral triangle relative to you to get the best overall quality stereo imaging and instrument separation. If you place them closer, for example, in my situation, I sit much closer to them, so it's a triangle with 1 long line and 2 short lines. This is how my setup looks for me, but they still sound excellent. I have my computer on my left side and the couch on my right side. So sometimes I listen to music while sitting on the couch, or other times I'm sitting at the computer and I do my work, mixing, mastering, even working with music. And those speakers have been my companions ever since I have installed them. You may have even noticed that I've been testing amplifiers, DACs, cables, and a lot of stuff with the speakers. A lot of equipment changes how a pair of speakers sounds like. But the most important piece of equipment for a pair of speakers is typically the amplifier, because most DACs are similar in sound. Amplifiers tend to be quite different, both in driving power, in the resolution, control, harmonic distortion, and also in the signature that they go for. Even Ketches S300 Plus has 2 sonic modes, one in full class A and one in class AB. And I have noticed that Diamond 30 Mark II sounds better in class AB than it does in class A. For some reason in class A the sound is a bit overdriven, it's a bit too powerful, and the texture is a bit strong, even harsh at times. While in class AB everything is more natural, more settled, and the distortion seems to be lower. Also the sound is more controlled. With other speakers I prefer the class A on KHSS 300 Plus. My point is that every single time the synergy is the most important aspect, not necessarily following a certain rule, because sometimes the rule doesn't apply to every single setup out there. Now that we have reached the most important part of the review, how does the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II sound like? I think they sound the most detailed out of all the speakers that I've tested to date, at least in this room, which is acoustically treated, and in other rooms which are not acoustically treated, those are the most detailed sounding. But that's not quite it. Those are the pair of speakers that managed to convince me to sell my subwoofer. Basically, I have sold a subwoofer. I have purchased that subwoofer secondhand from a fellow Romanian quite a few years ago, the Adam Audio T10S. It was the subwoofer with a 10-inch driver, and after installing the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II, I didn't feel the need for a subwoofer. The bass of those speakers reaches about 40 to 38 Hz, which is incredible to hear. They have a fast and punchy bass, which was not true when it came to that Adam Audio subwoofer. The bass of the Adam Audio subwoofer was slow, but not in the sloppy, satisfying way. It was just slow. It created a hum of sound, more like a humming sound, like a hoo hoo. It was not necessarily a punchy bass. With the Pylon Diamond 30 Mark II, the bass is always punchy, it is snappy, and they react very quickly to impulses. You can expect them to keep up with death metal, with technical EDM. Basically all technical styles of music will be really fast, really satisfying, and really punchy. Then we have a very clean and well-defined mid-range. It's incredibly defined and detailed, and the treble is sharp, brilliant, but not bright. This is an important aspect because with the KLH Model 5, the treble always feels a bit on the bright side, there is a bit too little bass, and the sound is not quite balanced. With Pylon Audio, the sound is very balanced, everything is in the right amount, you get a rich mid-range, and you also get a satisfying, slightly silky treble. They tend to respect the source material quite a lot, they have high transparency, so songs which are mastered to be brighter will sound brighter, while songs which are mastered to be darker will sound darker. For amplifier, I would recommend giving them something with a bit of extra power. It is important to give them enough power since they have so many drivers, those are not the easiest to move. Technically, you are looking at 4 ohms of impedance, so a pretty low impedance. Your amplifier shouldn't run into overheating issues. It should be a well-designed amplifier. And we are also looking at a CPL or sound pressure level of 90 decibels. That is okay. It is not the easiest to drive speaker for sure, but it isn't exceedingly hard to drive. It is a naturally easy to drive speaker. Most amplifiers will do a good job. Some beefier, more powerful amplifiers will really show you why this is the pair of speakers that I've been using the most ever since receiving them. It's like this sounds the best from everything that I've heard in the speaker world. They sound so detailed, rich, and yet natural. The other important aspect of them is the soundstage, which is incredibly wide, expansive, like this expansive. They go out of the room. It's not bounded by the walls of my room. The soundstage just expands indefinitely. There are no bounds, no limits to the soundstage. Instrument separation is incredible. Each instrument plays its own space. It has its own definition, especially at higher volumes with most amplifiers. The sound just becomes so clean and crisp. There is no crowding, there is no confusion in the instruments. You always know what instrument is playing, where, and why. You always know what you're hearing. Everything just makes sense. And this is an important thing with most speakers, because with most speakers there is a bit more crowding and the sound is slightly less defined than with headphones. Because with headphones you don't have to produce such a loud sound, it is easier to produce a really clean and controlled sound from a small driver. Because first, you're not feeding it a lot of energy, and second, there isn't a lot of space for distortion to take place. While with speakers there is more distortion usually in the room. The room has more gain, the room has more coloration of itself. With speakers it is harder to predict how each person will be listening like to them. There are so many amplifiers and they are so different in how they drive the speakers that I'm shocked to be saying this, but this pair of towering speakers just sounds perfect. They are perfectly balanced. Voices sound natural, music sounds wide, everything is holographic and well layered. Basically, the music is transparent. You hear everything that you were supposed to hear in the original album. When thinking whether they have any kind of drawback, I honestly think they do not. At this price point, at $3,000, they are easier to recommend than any other pair of speaker that I've heard. I even was testing much pricier studio monitors because I wanted to purchase a pair to use for music mixing and mastering, and I preferred the sound of the Diamond 30 Mark II. It was just crisper, more transparent, and better defined than the monitors from Adam Audio that I was listening to. The one system I was really interested in was a MKII BXT. It is a top-of-the-line flagship system that actually sounded really impressive in person. It was outstanding. And I was really curious whether I would be able to avoid purchasing it because it's so expensive. And then I heard the Diamond 30 Mark II, which actually sounds more natural. It was just as defined. There wasn't a big advantage of spending about 5 to 10 times more on a MKII BXT system when I could just listen to this beauty. They also look a bit better in person, the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II. I like the wooden finish. I would suggest going for the brown version. I was not able to think about that when I ordered them, but when seeing the brown version in person at High-End Munich, I realized that it is so beautiful. The wood finish is fantastic, and I like that about them. They are lookers. It's not just you who will love them, your wife will love them, your girlfriend will love them. They look like high-end furniture. If you ever seen an Adam Audio speaker, they tend to look like they are industrial machines coming from a factory. While Pylon Audio Diamond 30 just looks beautiful in person. They are absolutely amazing. They are dazzling to look at. Having two mid-woofers doesn't have any kind of added distortion, so I think that they control the bass quite a bit better than most subwoofers because it is much faster. Usually with subwoofers the sound isn't the fastest. It always reaches lower in the lows. For example, most subwoofers which are in the high-end range can reach 20 Hz, though Diamond Audio 30 Mark II cannot really reach 20 Hz, that's for sure, because it is impossible for drivers of this size and for their design to reach 20 Hz. But from the frequency response they actually reach, so about 38 to 40 Hz, the sound is really fast and well defined, which I think is better than reaching 20 Hz but with a slow subwoofer. It's better to have a fast and snappy response in the bass. The mid-range is just, I would call it perfect. Female voices sound sweet, male voices sound deep, they sound happy and they sound full of life and energy, while most instruments are so well defined that you never question to yourself what was that sound. You know that it was a guitar playing in the background. You have the background well separated from the foreground, the layering is done really nicely, and of course a lot of this will rely on the amplifier, but I suppose that if you purchase a $3,000 pair of speaker, you will use a high-end amplifier so that you do them justice. I hope that my video does justice to the Pylon Audio Diamond 30 Mark II. I hope that if you have questions, you will type them in the comments. Also, I did make a full written review. Please check that out if you have more questions. It is much more detailed and it has my impressions but written more professionally. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe to Audiophile Heaven if you enjoyed the content. Like this video, it really helps me out, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!